Hi guys, I finally got my new guidepost books today, and the one we're going to start reading first is When God Winks at You. How God speaks directly to you through the power of coincidence. It looks like this. Those extraordinary events in your life happen for a reason. They're not just coincidence. I read a book called this that I got from the Dollar General many years ago. It was green and it had taxi cars on the front of it. It was a really good book, and it was When God Winks at You. So I'm going to read God's winks are personal. You've had another one of those days. Everything seems uncertain. You think, wouldn't it be great to wake up one morning and have everything certain? Certain in love, certain about your job, certain about your future. Who could you talk to about this? Bigger question, who would listen? Tentatively, your eyes drift skyward. Father. Hello, are you there, God? Then your mind quickly assesses the immensity of your request. You want God to listen to you right now. How ridiculous. There are 6 billion people on this planet. What if they are all calling God at the same time? You slump deeper into the dumps. Then something happens. A silly little thing. Someone you just thought about for the first time in years. That happens all the time to me. Telephones out of the blue. A silly little coincidence. So silly you shrug it off. Or a prayer you didn't really expect to be answered was. Immediately your left brain repeats something you once heard. That's a mathematical explanation for everything. There is. But you say, maybe it's not just coincidence or chance. Maybe God is communicating with you. Yes, directly to you. God does that all the time. You shake your head. Nah, couldn't be. But what if God is communicating with you in a nonverbal way, making little miracles happen right in front of you? After all, God doesn't speak to people in a human voice anymore. He's God. He'd do something no one else could do, just to show you it's Him. If so, that would mean that He is listening, right? He has heard you. He has. What if through this odd little coincidence or answered prayer, He's sending you, out of all the billions of people, a direct personal message of reassurance, to stop worrying, to keep the faith, that everything will be all right. This, my dear reader, is the essence of this book. This book is about you. Every time you receive with some call a coincidence or an answered prayer, it's a direct and personal message of reassurance from God to you. What I call a God wink. It's similar to when you were a kid sitting at the dining room table. You looked up and saw someone you loved looking back, mom or dad or granddad. They gave you a little wink. You had a nice feeling from the small silent communication. What did it mean? Probably, hey kid, I'm thinking about you right at this moment. I'm proud of you. Everything is going to be all right. That's what a God wink is. Every so-called coincidence or answered prayer is God's way of giving you small, silent communication. A little wink saying, hey kid, I'm thinking of you right now, because we are His kids. Deuteronomy 7:6 says, the Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be His treasured possession, and each and every single one of us are His treasured possessions. It's a clear message of reassurance that no matter how uncertain your life seems at the moment, He will help move you towards certainty. And it's a sign that you are never, never alone. In fact, you are always on His GPS. a global positioning system I like to call God's positioning system. In this book, I aim to show that every God wink that happens in your life is a very personal experience. I've collected one compelling story after another to convince you, and you will never again have to wonder where you rank among those 6 billion others in the world. Like those in the stories that follow, the instant you receive a God wink, you'll know it. You are right there at the top. And here's one of these coincidences, not just a coincidence, when it's crystal clear. In California, Mavis Jackson drove past the Crystal Cathedral. For 20 years, she said the same thing: someday I'm going to go there. One Sunday morning, she did. Putting on her best outfit, she simply decided today is the day. Getting there early, Mavis took a seat in the middle and watched the huge 3,000-seat megachurch fill with people. She was awed, and the majestic voices of the choir seemed to encircle her. She marveled at the manner in which a huge section of the glass ceiling slid open at the start of the service, as if to invite even the birds to worship. At the end of service, Mavis stood up and waited for the aisle to clear. Trying not to sound too excited, she said to the young lady who'd been next to her, "I am so glad I came today. Wasn't it wonderful?" The young woman nodded. "Are you from here?" asked Mavis. "No, I'm from the Midwest," said the young woman, adding, "I'm actually here on a mission, to find my birth mother." There was a pause. "I know how you must feel," said Mavis. "A long time ago, I had to give up a little girl for adoption. I didn't want to, but—" Another pause. The young woman looked deeply into Mavis's eyes. "Do you remember her birthday?" "Yes," said Mavis cautiously. "October 30th. "That's my birthday," gasped the young woman. That's right. A remarkable coincidence. A God wink had reunited a long-lost mother and daughter. What are the odds of that? They sat down. The young woman introduced herself as Cheryl Wallace. Cheryl explained that for years she had been haunted by the lingering uncertainty of not knowing who her birth mother was, and more important, why her mother had given her up. In her small Midwest town, everyone was discouraging. "You're looking for a needle in a haystack," counseled the town clerk. "There's no trace of her," said others. Eventually, a suggestion from someone who thought she'd once heard that Cheryl's birth mother had moved to Orange County, California, led her to this time and place. Even on her most optimistic days, Cheryl never could have forecast such a remarkable outcome. That such uncertainty would end up such certainty in a manner that only God could have made happen. And when they confirmed that their wonderful miracle was true, that they were long lost mother and daughter, they knew that Mother's Day would never be the same. What can you learn from Mavis and Cheryl's stories? That a mighty force is out there bigger than all of us, watching over us, directing our lives. And when we step out in faith, as demonstrated by Cheryl in looking for her mother, we can receive the desires of our heart. We can turn uncertainty into certainty. I wonder if, in your past, you were challenged to step out in faith, perhaps at an early age, and as a result, you were given a firm affirmation that your faith would be rewarded. If so, perhaps your experience parallels the one that follows. And that goes into another story, so I'll stop there. But I hope you enjoyed the story. You think that was just a coincidence that this happened, or do you think it was a God wink? I think it was a God wink for sure. She went to that church. Of all the days, she had been saying that for years. She decided to go that day, Mavis did. And when she got there, she talked to the young lady beside of her, which turned out to be the daughter she gave up years ago. And that girl had went there hoping, praying to find her birth mother. And God brought them together that very same day. She was meant to go that day, both of them were. And God led them to each other. Stuff like that happens all the time. It's not just coincidence, guys. It's a God wink.